Hello, my dear students. Welcome to my online lecture. In last lecture, we have discussed the respiration. Actually, the respiration is the third part of the first unit of paper called Physiology for the BC second year, semester third. Okay, and now today we are going to start the next point in the respiration is the respiratory organ in man. Okay, so we have already discussed or we have already defined the respiration. Again, we'll discuss here the respiration. So respiration is simply defined as the exchange of gases, exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide into the body. Simple words, in a very simple words, exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide into the body is called respiration. Okay, and it is an oxidative process. Again, in other words, we can define it. It is an oxidative process in which oxygen is taken into the tissue from the lungs to oxidize the food in order to release energy and carbon dioxide. Okay, in other terms, we can define respiration is like that. Okay, now the released energy is utilized to perform various life activities. Whatever the energy is released during this respiration, it performs the we can say that the energy is utilized to perform various activities or various life activities. Okay, and the metabolic waste in the form of CO2 is removed from the body through lungs. Okay, and the compound oxidized in respiration are called respiratory substances. Okay, now as far as the respiration is concerned, it categorized into two types on the basis of gaseous exchange. It categorized into two types on the basis of gaseous exchange. Number one is the external respiration and number two is the internal respiration. So the external respiration is the exchange of gases between lungs and blood, and it is the process of absorption of oxygen and removal of carbon dioxide from the body through the lungs. Then the internal respiration, it exchange of gases between blood and cells, and it is the process of utilization of oxygen to produce energy and carbon dioxide by oxidation of food material inside the cell. Now, respiration is of two types on the basis of availability of oxygen. On the basis of the we can categorize on the basis of the gases exchange or the site of gases exchange, and on the basis of the availability of oxygen. So number one is aerobic respiration, number two is the anaerobic respiration. In aerobic respiration, it is the process which consists external and internal respiration occurs in higher animals, including human beings, are called aerobic respiration, whereas the anaerobic respiration in some organisms such as bacteria, fungi, parasitic worms, glucose can be broken down to produce energy without utilizing oxygen. They are called, they categorize into the anaerobic respiration. Okay, now move towards the actual point of this unit, or is the respiratory organ in man. Note this: the respiratory organs in man, or the organ involved in respiratory system is number of 7 different organ involved. Number one is the nose and nasal cavity, then the pharynx, then the larynx, trachea, bronchi, and the main is the lungs, and the last one is the alveoli. So these 7 points are very important as far as the respiratory system is concerned. So first part you can see here, nose and nasal cavity. We know the nose is a part of respiratory tract lying above the mouth, and it is made by hyaline cartilage. We have this is the cartilage, okay, and it divided into right and left nasal cavity by nasal septum, and its anterior portion is cartilaginous and posterior portion bony. The nasal cavity is open outside through nostrils or external layers, and the nasal cavity is open posteriorly into the nasopharynx through the internal nares. The opening of paranasal sinuses and the nasolacrimal ducts lie in the nasal cavities. Okay, and internally the nasal cavity is lined with mucous membrane and ciliated columnar epithelium, and it contains nasal hairs. Okay, it contains nasal hairs. Now, this is the nose and the nasal cavity. What are the functions of this nasal cavity or the nose? See here, number one, it prevents the entry of dust particle into the lungs by trapping those dust on the mucus or by nasal air. Means we have the mucus, okay, or nasal hairs. They prevent the entry of the particular foreign particle or the dust particle. Okay, and number two is the ciliated epithelium prevents infection by sweeping out microorganisms. And number third, it warms cold air and moistens dry air again. And the next and the most important function of the nose and nasal cavity is it detects smell. It detects smell, and the superior 1/3 of nasal mucosa is the olfactory area which contains olfactory cells, and these cells are involved in perception of smell. Okay, this is the nose and the nasal cavity. Okay, the next point is the pharynx. See, it is the both digestive and respiratory organ. The pharynx, it perform both functions, respiratory as well as digestive tract. Okay, and it is a tube of 12 to 14 centimeter in length, and it can extend the base of skull to the level of its cervical vertebra, and it is the behind mouth, nose and larynx. It is connected to nasal cavity through the internal opening of nares and to the mouth. And and again it divides into three parts. Number one is the nasopharynx, number two is oropharynx, number three is the laryngopharynx. So see first the nasopharynx. It is the nasal part of pharynx, lies behind the nose and superior to the soft palate. It lined with ciliated epithelium that help in cleaning inspired air, and on the lateral wall there are two openings of auditory tubes, and the posterior wall there is a pharyngeal tonsils consist of lymphoid tissue. Oropharynx, oral part of pharynx lies at the posterior part of mouth and from a soft palate to the epiglottis, and it is separated from mouth by a pair of membrane narrow passage called vessels. Okay, this is the oropharynx. The third part is the laryngopharynx. It is the lowermost portion of pharynx and has a slit like aperture called glottis. We know the actual role of the glottis, and this can be closed by leaf-like bilobe cartilage epiglottis during swallowing of the food. Okay, now the function of the pharynx. Pharynx helps in passage of air from nose to trachea. Okay, it helps the air or passage of air from nose to trachea, and the air is further warmed and moistened as passes through the pharynx. And there are olfactory nerve ending of the sense of smell and protection. The lymphatic tissue of the pharyngeal and laryngeal tonsils produces antibodies in response to antigen. Then the hearing. The auditory tube extending from the nasopharynx to each middle ear allows air to enter the middle ear. Okay. Now the third part of this respiratory organ or the respiratory system is the larynx. We know the larynx. It is also called the sound box or voice box, and it is situated at the anterior neck, that is in front of esophagus. Okay, and it is a small, thin-walled tubular part portion present in the neck at the area of at the apex of trachea. It connects the lower part of pharynx and trachea. Pharynx open in larynx through glottis, which is guarded by leaf-like unpaired cartilage, which is called epiglottis, and it prevents the entrance of food into the trachea. The role of epiglottis is very important as far as the respiratory system or the larynx is concerned. The epiglottis prevent the entry of food into the tracheal region. Okay, and it is composed of several irregular shaped cartilage. Okay, now the function of this larynx. Again, it plays an important role in sound production, no doubt, because it is also called a sound box or voice box, and it links pharynx with trachea. Thus, it allows passage of air. Speech is produced when sound produced by vocal cords are manipulated by tongue, cheek, and the lips. And during the swallowing, the larynx move upward, blocking the opening into it from the pharynx. And in addition, the epiglottis also closes over the larynx, and this ensures the food passes into the esophagus and not into the trachea. Okay, now the another part or the main important part of this respiratory system is the trachea. So trachea is nothing but a wide pipe, okay, and is hollow tube about 11 to 12 centimeter in length and 2.5 centimeter in diameter. It extends from the base of larynx to the thoracic cavity, and it runs the neck in front of esophagus. It is supported by 16 to 20 C-shaped cartilaginous tracheal rings, and these rings prevent the trachea from collapsing due to the continuous dilation and expansion. Okay, and internally the wall of trachea is lined by pseudo-stratified ciliated epithelium with mucus secreting Coben cells. Okay, and the secretion of mucus cells keeps the wall of tube moist and trap the dust particle. Again, it also prevent the entry of the dust particle. Okay, see the function of this trachea. The mucus lubricates the passage and cilia helps filter out the dust particles. Okay, number 2, the constant beating of cilia carry mucus and debris upward into pharynx, where upon it is swallowed or cough up. Okay, and help in cough reflex. It supports the head and neck also. Okay, then the next part is the bronchi. As the trachea reaches into the thoracic cavity, as you can see here, in this figure, the trachea. As the trachea reaches into the thoracic cavity, it divides into two branches called the bronchi, right and left bronchi. Okay, and each bronchus has the structure similar to the trachea. And the right bronchus is wider and shorter than left bronchus. See here, you can see in the figure, the right bronchus is a wider and shorter than the left bronchus, and it is about 2.5 centimeter long, and left bronchus is about 5 centimeter, means double. It's double of the okay, and in length. And each bronchus, when enter into the corresponding lungs, it divides into smaller secondary bronchi and then into tertiary bronchi. And these bronchi progressively subdivide into smaller and smaller tubes called bronchioles, and then into terminal bronchioles. The bronchioles continue to branch and open into the respiratory tracheoles, which in turn branch into alveolar duct that lead into the alveolar, that is the microscopic ear sac. Okay, and the function of this bronchi is the bronchi connect the trachea to the lungs, allowing air from external respiratory opening into the lungs. Then the next the last but one part of this respiratory organ or the respiratory system is the alveoli. See, the alveoli, the bronchioles continue to branch and open into respiratory bronchioles, which in turn branch into alveolar duct that lead into microscopic air sac called alveoli, and gaseous exchange takes place in alveoli. The alveoli are richly supplied with the blood capillaries. The wall of alveoli is lined with type 1 pneumocytes which help in gaseous exchange, and type 2 pneumocytes produces surfactant, and the surfactant reduces the surface tension so that the lungs do not collapse. Okay, now the function of this alveoli help in purification of blood and allow exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the lungs. It is very important, most important function in this respiratory system is the work of alveoli. Means how they perform their work. They perform or they help in the purification of blood and allow the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide into the lungs. Okay, now the lungs, the main respiratory organ in man is the lungs. So lungs they are pair of conical organ situated one on either side of thoracic cavity. Okay, and they are hollow, spongy, elastic, light and pink color, and there are one pair of lungs. They are right lung and left lung. Okay, lungs are externally surrounded by two layers called pleural membrane. Okay, and the outer membrane is called parietal pleural membrane, and the inner layer is called visceral pleural membrane. Okay, these membranes protect the lungs and stop leaking of air into the thoracic cavity. Means their role is very important as far as the respiration is concerned, the pleural membrane, and the space between two layers is called pleural cavity, and which is filled, that particular pleural cavity is filled with the pleural fluid, and the pleural fluid performs following function. Number one, it allows or smooth a free frictionless movement of lungs. It protects the lungs from mechanical shocks. See, whatever the pleural fluid is there, that pleural fluid is protect the lungs from the mechanical shock, and it keeps the pleura together and lungs expanded. Okay. Again, the lobes of lungs are divided into distinct lobes. Right lung has 3 lobes: right superior, middle and inferior lobe. These lobes are demarcated by transverse and oblique feature. The left lung has 2 lobes, superior and inferior lobe, and the left lung is smaller than right lung and has a cardiac notch of accommodate heart. Okay, this is nothing but the respiratory organ in man. Okay, as far as the respiration is concerned, we have already discussed the other respiratory organs present in the other than the lungs or the gills. We have different organs and already discussed in the direct and indirect respiration. Okay, till then today the respiratory organ of man we have discussed, and the next part of this unit or in this point is will continue in our next lecture. Till then, my dear students, stay home, stay safe. Please use mask whenever you go outside of your house. Sanitize your hands regularly. Okay, and make a distance or make a physical distance to avoid the infection of this corona. Okay, so till then I stop here. Thank you very much.